What's up, everybody, and welcome back to CCLP3. We are just 11 levels away from completing the set, and I'm hoping to get 5 of those levels done in this video, so ready, go. Starting here, number the traps clockwise, 1 to 5. 1 and 3 are open. Use the blue buttons to rotate them clockwise. If that puzzle sounds rather familiar, if that setup sounds a little bit like deja vu, if you've been watching this channel, that's actually because it's a rehash or an adaptation of the gate room puzzle from Riven, the sequel to Myst. This is a level I made a while back. I'd been wanting to adapt this puzzle to CC for a while, and I gotta admit, it is kind of a little bit of a shoddy adaptation. I'm not really the biggest fan of this. I think it's an interesting idea, and the actual adaptation of the central puzzle, that's not so bad. So note here, there's a block cloner and a bomb up there. That's going to become important here in just like 2 seconds. That was literally 2 seconds. That's the button that controls that. There's another button here, and that's connected to this glider cloner, but if you go up here, you'll notice there's an invisible wall, which is kind of mean. I really wish I didn't put that there, but I mainly did it just because there was, just because of the aesthetic of the level. And notice there's a force floor there, which is supposed to mark one of the blocks that needs to be pushed in this little Amsterdam-like section. Specifically that one. It has the fire boots under it. I should have, if this game included the ability to include multiple hints, I would have brought that up. But yeah, this is kind of inspired by a Daniel Baumeister design tactic. There's another one of these over here, and you need to have the fire boots before you get in here, which the level totally doesn't even warn you about. I gotta admit, this whole thing could have been designed way better than it was, but it's supposed to point out that both blocks have stuff under them. So note that. And then we get a monster leading section. Yay! And Fireball blows up the bomb thanks to the teeth guiding, and then we can get this guy over here to do some stuff for us. This room is kind of a little bit tight, but not exactly, mainly just because you can just lead one teeth at a time. There you go. That one is a little tricky. Like, you have to pretty much have that exact timing to pull it off. Like, I don't think there's any other way to destroy it short of just going outside the room and taking a long trip around. And I want to say when I first designed this, that was actually the intended solution, but thankfully it's possible to do it this way. And you can see the mechanism that causes the rotation to happen right here between these tanks and gliders. It's kind of an adjustment to what I did for Beat the Heats earlier in the set. And I want to say that level came first when I designed everything. Alright, so now we've gotten the suction boots, which means that we can press this. And much like Riven, we had to go in through the 5th door in order for anything to happen. Because you'll notice that the 2 doors that are needed, or that are open whenever the first door is open, number 3 and number 4, all have doors behind them. So 2, 4, 3, 5, that releases that. 4, 1, and then 5, 2. So now let's go back over here through this, and now we can get through door number 2. So here we got some blocks. We have a red key under them, which is what door 4 has behind it. So let's rotate this 2 more times. So that brings it back to 3, 1, or 1, 3, and then that's 2, 4. So let's cross over to 4 from 2. We get a yellow key, which is what's behind door number 3. So we have 3, 5, 4, 1, and we cross over to door number 1. And then we get 5, 2, and then 1, 3 again. So notice over here that the exit is right here, and that it needs this to be open, which means that we can't enter through door number 1. We actually have to enter through door number 5. This is not something that you actually need to do in Riven, as far as I know. But I figured it would allow the player to be forced to go through pretty much every door configuration. Additionally, there is a blue button behind door number 3, but like the button in Riven, it's completely useless. So it's pretty cool, though, that designers of Riven actually included that. So we have a little toggle maze here. That was more or less meant to be a tribute to Mike Lask to a certain degree, because he loved doing little toggle mazes like that. And now we get a gigantic, except not really gigantic, block pushing ice area, which is my attempt at trying to make this level super difficult to optimize. And unfortunately, I think I managed to succeed because I had quite a whale of a time optimizing this. And I don't mean that in a fun way. So a funny story about this room. Originally, I had a south thin wall, I think it was, right above that the square I'm standing on. And then I found out, oh wait a minute, I have to do this one. Then I found out that you could just flick blocks off of it. And so instead of putting a north thin wall there, like most people would do, I decided to put fire in there just to keep the level pedantic links compatible, since that was such a huge priority for me back in the day for some reason. And because pedantic links mode, you know, the original links, does not include north thin walls. So instead I used the fire, which Modhoff thought was a hilarious way to get around it. And then because of that, I decided to put fire around this. I think I didn't even have fire in this little lake area over there, but then I added it in after the fact. I could be wrong on that though. Anyway, let me go ahead and go through 2-4, which should be open here now. And from here I'm going to go to 3-5 or 2-5. So that's 3-5, 4-1, and then 5-2. So this is open now, and then from here we can get back into the third door. So now we're at 1-3, 2-4, and then 3-5. So yeah, I hope that made sense as far as the puzzle goes. If you're confused, then go and watch my Riven Let's Play for more details. Shameless plug. So moving on to yet another puzzle. This is one of only 3 levels in CCLP3 that are untimed. And if you know anything about the intended solution to this level, then you know why it's untimed. This level is the one and only level in this set, I believe, that's created by Eric Schmidt, and it is a monster level to solve. Thankfully, there is a way to solve it that's completely busted. And I'm going to show you what that is here by replaying my solution, because honestly, playing the intended solution would just take too long, and trying to redo the busted solution would require quite a bit of skill. So I'm just going to replay it after I'm done explaining this. So what you have to figure out in this level is that there's a bunch of red herrings. This level was originally titled The Last Laugh 2, which should give you quite a hint about what kind of puzzle this is. I'm going to go ahead and actually just destroy the bomb and do stuff here in this room just to show you guys around. We don't have a blue key yet, so let me find that for you. So let me just make sure I know what I'm doing down here. I think I may need another block, but what you have to figure out is how to get into the exit, basically. And there's a lot of different things that the level flashes at you that seem like viable solutions toward that end, when in fact, and we need 2 more blocks to get through there to get to the blue key, but it really doesn't matter because I'm not even going to do that. But let me show you what's going on here. So you'll notice back at the beginning there were 2 trap buttons, right? There's also a clone button there which controls this fireball clone machine by the exit. Let me show you where that is. I'm trying to remember where the green key is. Where is the green key? But anyway, the fireball cloner is right here, and it clones to the right there, as you can see. If you're using the MSCC tile set, that's not very obvious, sadly. But anyway, if I can just find a green key, I can show you that room, because that room is kind of where this level gets a little bit tough. Well, these are blocks. But you can see here there's a giant Sokoban that you would have to go through for each and every single one of these blocks, right? And you have to turn them all around. Well, turns out all these tanks, toggle stuff, this is completely useless. Yeah, that stuff doesn't do you any good. Oh, it's right there. It's in the room. My bad. Alright, let me make sure this is on the left trap. So you have to do if you're doing this the intended way, you have to do a bunch of back and forthing in this level to do this trap button, because this whole room down here with the green key and the green door is pretty much entirely dependent on you being able to take only one block through at a time. And I'll show you what that... Oh, duh. I have to go through here. Alright, so pretend that we have gotten blocks all the way through that Sokoban. We go in here. So when we push them up that way, we would then be forced to go ourselves through the teleport, and we can't have this open yet. So then once we go through the teleport, then we can switch the traps, get the block through, and push it up through the teleport, right? Well, then the block gets over here onto the trap, which means then we have to go switch the button again. And we have to keep doing this. And then eventually we get the blocks up through here, and then, you know, some of them go up through this way and all that. At least one of them does, in order to get that blue key. But where do the others go? Well, as it turns out, there's something very evil here. And you may think that this solution involves using fireballs or something like that, or using tanks, or doing some kind of crazy partial posts here to get to the exit, which is totally impossible, by the way, because you can't stuff 2 blocks here. So that's pretty much not going to work. You might think that somehow you can get the flippers or the suction boots, neither of which are possible to get, because you can't destroy the bomb from here. You can't also prop up a block on the teleport there either. So all of those ideas, while they sound good, are ultimately going to fail. So what you have to figure out is that the real solution involves this little construction right here. Eric kind of made this a little less obvious by putting another wall here. If it was just these 2 tiles, I think it would have been super crazy obvious. But what you're supposed to figure out is that you're supposed to turn the blocks around in this little 2x3 area here that I'm walking around in. And then you bring 3 blocks all the way into this room, and you'll have just enough room for them. And then you'll set up a block slide right here by pushing one all the way over, and then pushing another onto the slide, and then covering the slide up with a block on the space I'm standing on right now. And then you'd go through the doors, and then go out, and then catch the block in order to get to the exit, which is pretty ridiculous as a timing challenge after tedious Sokoban. However, there's another method that you can use to solve this level. And it's much more quick, which is why I've got a time of 8:51, well, untimed time of 8:51. And what this is that it exploits a behavior in the Microsoft rule set, in which a block that slides on a trap, and you know, even if the trap is closed, in fact, it is only when the trap is closed, will cause slide delay. Now, for those of you who haven't heard anything about slide delay, basically what this is that when objects enter like ice or force floors, or, you know, teleports or anything that causes them to slide, there's going to be a bit of a delay in the movement. And so what this allows you to do is this allows you to get blocks and then like push them onto force floors that are opposing. Like, for instance, if there was a block sitting right here, I could come up from above, go through the trap, I can wait half a move on the trap, and then quickly push the block and then get out of the way by going left or right. Well, in this case, it would need to be left. At least I think that's what is involved here, but I'll play back the solution in a little bit. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to get to the exit much more quickly by partial posting. So let me show you what this is basically like. This is, thankfully, a much quicker solution. You still have to extract some blocks from the right side, but it's not nearly as tedious. You also don't have to worry about getting into the keys or pressing, well, not that you really have to press the buttons in the intended solution anyway. But I really like this level just as an exercise in using things that aren't really purposeful in terms of solving the level. Like, one of the things that you've probably heard me say quite a bit here on the channel is that I'm not a big fan of when everything is reduced to function. And I know Rock is very passionate about that as well when he designs levels. And it's something I've tried to take to heart. Granted, I'm not really the best at it when it comes to designing my own levels. In fact, I'd say most people, other than aesthetic stuff, that is very clearly calculated and adds to the level, I'd say for the most part, people do have assign a purpose to everything when they build levels. And that's not wrong or anything. But it is refreshing to have a level that just has red herrings that don't involve just messing the entire thing up. Because most red herrings, like the ones I used in my levels here in CCLP3, unfortunately involved, cooking the level if you manage to fall for one of them or anything like that. But here, you have all the time in the world you need. And if you use one of those tank buttons or toggle buttons or, clone buttons or the clone button, then you're not going to get the level cooked, which is nice. So I believe it's just these two blocks that are needed to solve everything here. And one of them we're going to push through the teleport, which I'll do right around here after we actually switch the trap button. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this may actually be the last time I actually do this. Going up here to do the trap button, that is. I may do it a second time. No, wait a minute. No, I think that is it. I think that is the last time. So the idea here is that whenever the block is on the closed trap that's at the bottom there, that block cannot be pushed. So watch this. I'm going to go ahead and do the trick here, like that, because I caused slide delay. And then, but what I did right there at the very end with the exit is that when I pushed the block through, I waited half a move to push it. And then what it did is, because teleports are another thing that are affected by slide delay when stuff is moving through them, the block was temporarily stuck on the teleport. There's another one that's in the bottom left of the level near the blue key, and it got stuck there, and that enabled me to get into the exits. So that's basically how that level works. So that's yet another puzzle, and that is the busted routes. Kudos to Pie Guy for finding that. I recently confirmed it back in February, but it took a while to figure out. Anyway, moving on to bug arranging. This is a level by Mike Lask, and a pretty fun one at that. It's essentially a lesson in ferrying bugs and paramecia around. And it's kind of a little bit of a tough level to figure out. It's pretty interesting in that there's only really 3 sections, and they generally just increase in difficulty as you go on. So now we're going to have to listen to a bunch of quacking or clicking poppy noises there. So this room right here, I guess this one's actually technically a little easier because you only have one monster to deal with. You just have to have a very specific arrangement, and I'm going to try to be careful here. There we go. So now all the buttons can be pressed, and you'll notice I'm taking a block here too. That's because I'm going to need it here in the final room to hold down this bottom button. In this room, this one's a little evil, especially if you're going for an optimal time. And I still don't know what the optimal route is for this. I don't know if it's entirely dependent on this room or the first room. I think it's the first room, because that would make the most sense. So let me get, well, first of all, let me get the block so I can get the paramecium here. Ah. Okay, so that should be good enough. Everything looks like it's being pressed. So yeah, you absolutely have to take a block in from the first room to get that to work. Which is pretty much the hard thing about this level when it comes to figuring everything out. Most of the difficulty comes admittedly from routing the bugs and paramecia to where they need to go. Especially if you're not used to ferrying monsters around like that. Personally, I think this level could have come earlier in the set. Especially with levels like Twisted Chambers and Think Tank that involve doing this. I'd like to think that a level like this that's basically functioning as a tutorial for doing stuff like this would have been better earlier on. It was sort of meant to be a relief level that was more skill dependent instead of puzzle heavy at this point in the set when we were ordering all the levels. And I think it would have been better to have a different level here, but that's just my opinion. Something that's also not too hard. So, I don't know what that could have been, but there's plenty of options from earlier on. Anyway, on to one of my favorite levels that I submitted, Mudpie. This level is kind of a tricky one, and the hint down here says, don't be so quick to pick up everything you see. So this level is essentially a primer in not getting things until you need them, and that fire boot there is a case in point. So I'm actually going to set up these paramecia here. Whoops. Okay, I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Let me get that set up. In fact, I think the ideal way to do this is just to make them circle around. And that was terrible. So for this level, I took some inspiration from quite a few other levels, but I decided to add my own little twists to some of the stuff, and I think that's what helped make this level pretty decent in the end. Okay, so that's evidently not going to work out. Alright, I think I see what I can do here. I can just move that entire dirt or floor construction up one. So let's try that. Oops, I should have waited there. I don't know why I did that. This level also had a recently, and that was also stupid, a recently broken boulder time on it. James set a new record of 5:33, and then I was able to extend that to 5:35 after the fact. That was quite a fun route to find. Frustrating in places, but still pretty fun. Alright, so that's good enough for what we need to do here. We just need those traps to be open down over here. So, I've been playing through CC1 Blobs Edition. That is an interesting concept for a level set. Just taking all the original levels and replacing monsters with blobs. Alright, so at this point, we need to get the yellow key, not the other two. Do not get the other two keys. So we need to get this toggling, and that will allow us to go down here. So we don't want to get the red key because of this little construction here, and the blue key because of this construction here. But now we have a blue key, so we need to find either a blue door or suction boots. And here you can see this recessed wall kind of maze here where we're eventually going to need to pilot a block through. Here we get a green key, and let's pick up one pair of suction boots. Leave the other one for later, because we're going to need to come back here a second time. I'm going to open that up for this block to come through. This little construction with the teeth and the ice slide and the door nail thing there was actually directly from an Eric level called Patience. Very frustrating level, but pretty interesting. And I'm trying to remember when that blue key is actually used. I'm pretty sure we need to get both keys now. Yeah, we definitely need the red key, and I'm pretty sure we need the blue too. If I mess up here, then I mess up here, but I'm pretty sure we need the blue key. I guess technically we don't need the paramecia anymore. Alright, so we get another red key here, which we'll need to get rid of before we get back to the ballroom or get skates. And we have two blocks here, and you may think that we need to use these on these bombs, but actually we don't. We want to use them up over in this area. And, okay, I nearly cooked the level right there. That would have been really bad. because there's 2 more blocks up there, plus some skates, which is pretty nifty. However, we don't want to get the skates right away because we got this ice slide section here with a ball that you can see right here. And we want to make sure we are skateless when we go across it. So I'm going to leave the skates for now and come back for them later. There's also a block cloner here, which is what that red button in the top room over here connects to. So let's press that. Alright, I'm just going to wait another cycle. And I almost messed that up. Thankfully, we made it through. So we got this. Alright, so you may be tempted to go ahead and get the skates now and do this, but you don't want to do that yet. Instead, what you want to do is you want to move on to the next area, which is over here. This part with these 2 traps, because you have to wait here for so long, this ends up being quite an equalizer. And here's where things get pretty interesting. This section over here is taken from tiny spirals with getting the teeth into that ball area, because you want to make sure that that fireball cloner is not going. The other interesting thing about this area is that it also has an extra chip, which is the one right below me. That's a red herring. So you don't want to get that. And I'm going to go here and do this first, this glider dodging area. This is the one part of the level that is admittedly a little out of place as a little challenge here. Mainly just because there really isn't a dodging challenge elsewhere in the level, but it's a pretty decently fair challenge, so I don't think it's overboard or anything. I think it's fine, especially once everything stabilizes. So that's the glider room. We got everything we need there. So now I'm going to go ahead and, well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and lead you here so I don't have to worry about steps when I get past the door. So I'm going to switch the tank so we can get to that other chip, and then now we should be good on that. Okay. Except we're not, because I need to get the, there we go, get the teeth there. Okay, so that's that room done. So we're done with this whole area, and we don't need there to get into there, so we're good. So now we can go back over here, and notice we still have a red key, and this is supposed to be your hint that you have to get the skates up here because you can't get rid of this red key. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Get this guy. And remember that block that we cleared the dirt for over... Whoop, I didn't mean to go back down here. The block that we cleared the dirt for over here. And you also might remember that I mentioned that there was a recessed wall maze that we had to go through over here as well. It's time for that. So let's go ahead and do this. This is kind of a little bit of a tricky maze, but not too bad. As long as you're not careless with what walls you use, you should be alright. If I'm not oh wait, no, I have to go here. Okay, never mind. I have to go there. And then for this, I want to say this is right, and then this, and then, yeah, okay. Not too bad. It's a pretty cool maze. I like it. And then we need... Do we need suction boots? Yes, because we need to go up the slide. So we need suction boots, but not because we have a blue key here. And so now we can just step on the ice to avoid the ball. And now we finally get that first item that we were avoiding, the fire boots. And we also make use of the red key at the very end. So that's Mudpie. I really like that level a lot. It's grown on me over the years. Like at first when CCLP3 was released and we kind of had this backlash over, you know, really unfair things in levels, I was kind of putting this level down in my head a lot, but I think the nice thing about this level is that it really does have kind of a statement at the beginning that, hey, this is a level in which nothing is as it seems, so be careful. And so you're actually put into the mood for doing this. It's not like this level just surprises you out of the blue that, oh hey, suddenly I'm just going to foist this don't get an item mentality on you. So I think that helps it more than it hurts it. And for that, it's grown on me enough, particularly after finding the 535 route. And I've come to appreciate it a lot more since the set was released. Anyway, moving on to same game. Oh boy, this level. This level is a pie guy level, and it's evil, for lack of a better way of putting it. Mainly because it involves something that's, and I think I already messed this up, but it involves doing something very interesting. Let me just show you around here. So this level is a series of Sokobands, and you'll notice that each room has 6 buttons. 5 of them are trap buttons. The 6th one is a clone button. And just so you know, the reason why I think Pie Guy did that is just because there was a limit on trap buttons, I think was the reason, something like that. And so anyway, what you have to do is you have to cover up the clone button, because when you go through the traps at the end, you press those clone buttons, which are connected to these right here, these clone machines here. And if that touches a clone button, then a block will clone from the exit, making the level unsolvable. So that's how that was worked around. But you can see here that each room has a different set of obstacles in it. And this all culminates in the final room. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and reveal the secret to this. If you try to solve each room one at a time, you'll get to the final room, and then you'll realize that you can't solve it as it stands like that, and then be on the right side to get to the exit. So what you have to do is you have to shuffle the blocks around between rooms, and this is a monster challenge to figure out. It's really one of those levels that you pretty much have to devote like a day, like a Saturday morning, to doing this. And I feel like I've already screwed this up, so I've already forgotten how to solve this. This is probably going to actually be the level that stumps me for this video. Okay, there we go. That was not hard. So what you have to do is eventually you have to get a block back in this room and then push, like begin a kind of a trading cycle between rooms. So I'll show you basically what I mean here. And was that right? I'm not even sure that was right. You know what? Let me just start over. I don't even remember at this point. Okay, there we go. That first room really isn't that bad. So then we get to the second room. So what I'm going to do for this room is I'm actually going to go here, and I'm going to go ahead and push this down, just so we have it stationed there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the other 5 blocks, and I'm going to position them as such, like this, so that like later on I'm going to push a block down through here, and then I'll push this one back up, and then the one I push down, then I'll push that back up on the return trip. I hope that makes sense. So let's just continue the cycle with this over here. So I'll go ahead and move this into position down there. And then the rest of this should pretty much be a piece of cake. Hopefully. I'm trying to remember. Was it over there or over? Hang on. There's only 5 here. So I'm pretty sure it's this. Yeah, it has to be that. Okay, so this next room here, you can pretty much just do the same thing that you did in the other, like the second room. Mainly because it's a mirror of that. I think it requires a little bit more care because you can only go through that space up there once. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think this should work, if I'm not mistaken. So if I do that, we should be in position. And then we can just do the exact same configuration in here. of blocks like that. So that should be good for there. And so now we get to the final room. And this room, thankfully, is not really that bad. It's just a matter of setting this up like this. And so now we can just go through all the rooms and go back down. And then go back up. And then set everything as we go. So yeah, this level is easily one of the hardest in the set. And it requires a lot of lateral thinking. But really, it's not that bad when it comes to lateral thinking. Mainly because everything makes sense, I think. It's just something that you have to really wrap your mind around. So that is same game. So, I told you I was going to beat 5 levels. I've beaten 5 levels. And I'm going to stop here because the next video is going to be pretty much entirely dedicated to this level. The level that you're looking at right now is easily the hardest level in Chips Challenge history. It is a monster challenge that has so many different facets and so many different things that require explanation that it'll easily take, more time than I would, than would be reasonable for this video. So I'm going to wait until next time to do this. I may have time for another level along with it, but I'm going to try to keep my focus on this one. So yeah, we will finish the main portion of CCLP3 next time with You Can't Teach an Old Frog New Tricks. Hopefully I can get this video up by tomorrow. I'm not sure, but that's the plan at this point. If not, hopefully it'll be up by the next day. So at any rate, we will tackle this level in the next video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the levels today. If you enjoyed yourself today, be sure to hit the like button, and I will catch you on the flip side. So take care, and I will see you next time.